Hi everyone, have you ever wondered why something or someone you thought you couldn't live without suddenly gets taken out of your life? Maybe it was a relationship, maybe it was an opportunity, maybe it was a dream you had built in your head. And in that moment, you probably asked yourself, why? Why would God take this away from me when I wanted it so badly? Here's the truth I want you to sit with when something leaves your life. It's not always rejection, it's often redirection. Think about that. What feels like a loss can actually be protection. What feels like the end of the story can actually be the beginning of a new chapter you were never going to turn the page to, unless life gave you a push. I know how easy it is to hold on, to convince ourselves that if we just try harder, if we just wait longer, if we just give more of ourselves, then maybe we can keep what we're afraid to lose. But sometimes the things we fight hardest to keep are the very things blocking us from the love, peace, and growth we actually deserve. If God removes something from your life, it's not because He wants to punish you. It's because He sees what you can't. He knows the conversations you weren't in, the intentions you couldn't see, the future you couldn't predict. And I get it. It hurts. It hurts to lose someone you pictured a forever with. It hurts to let go of a dream you built your identity around. But pain has a purpose. It cracks us open so we can be reshaped. It clears space so that something better, something healthier, something truer can come in. Have you ever noticed how quickly we take something leaving our life as rejection? When someone we love walks away, when a relationship we invested in suddenly ends, the first thought that runs through our mind is, I wasn't enough. If I had been better, they would have stayed. That thought alone has broken more hearts than the actual ending itself. But here's the truth I want you to sit with. What feels like rejection is often protection. Life, God, the universe, whatever you believe in, sees things you don't. It sees the late night conversations you weren't part of, the unspoken intentions you couldn't read, the future you couldn't predict. And sometimes, the only way to save you from years of pain is to remove someone who was never meant to walk with you into your future. If you were driving down a road and up ahead there was a bridge that had collapsed, wouldn't you want someone to stop your car, even if it meant rerouting you to a longer, unfamiliar path? You might get frustrated in the moment. Why can't I just go the way I wanted? But that reroute is the only reason you survive. Relationships work the same way. The removal feels unfair, maybe even cruel, but in reality, it's mercy in disguise. The hardest part is we don't see it while we're in it. All we see is the empty chair, the unanswered texts, the silence where love used to be. We replay memories in our head like movie scenes, convincing ourselves that if we could just edit one part, maybe the story would have ended differently. But here's the hook. You're not supposed to edit the past. You're supposed to trust the rewrite. That ending wasn't your failure. It was your redirection. I've spoken to so many people who, years later, have looked back on the person they once cried oceans over and said, I can't believe I ever thought losing them was the end of me. Time reveals what heartbreak hides. The relationship wasn't taken from you to punish you. It was removed to protect you from a smaller life than the one you're destined for. Protection doesn't always look gentle. Sometimes it feels like being torn apart, but really, it's life pulling away what could have destroyed you slowly, quietly, without you realizing. And here's something powerful: rejection hurts most when we make it about our worth. But removal isn't about worth. It's about alignment. You are not being told you're unworthy of love. You're being set apart for a love that actually matches your soul. Imagine holding on to a door that was meant to close, spending all your energy trying to pry it open, while behind you another door is waiting to lead you into something far greater. That's what happens when we resist the removals in our life. We block the blessings that were trying to find us. So the next time something or someone leaves, I want you to shift the question. Instead of asking, why wasn't I enough? Ask, what was I being protected from? That question opens your heart to trust instead of torment, to peace instead of punishment. Because the truth is, What feels like rejection today is the very thing that will protect your future tomorrow. When someone leaves our life, the instinct is almost automatic. We chase. We chase with words, with apologies, with promises to do better, with desperate attempts to prove our value. We chase because the silence feels unbearable, and because the idea of letting go feels like letting a piece of ourselves die. But here's the hard truth most of us don't want to admit. The more you chase what's already gone, the further away you drift from the life and love that's truly meant for you. Because if God removes something from your life, it's not yours to hold anymore. Think about how exhausting it is to constantly run after something that doesn't want to be caught. It's like sprinting after a moving train. You scrape your hands, you bruise your knees, you shout until your voice breaks, but no matter how much you give, the train keeps moving. Not because you weren't fast enough, but because that train was never meant to stop at your station. And yet, so many of us keep running, believing that with enough effort, we can convince it to turn around. The truth, real love doesn't need convincing. Real love stands still. It meets you halfway. It chooses you without needing to be chased down. I know how deep the temptation runs. You remember the good moments, the laughter, the intimacy, the way you once felt seen, and you convince yourself that if you just fight harder, maybe those moments will return. But here's the hook. If someone wanted to stay, they wouldn't leave. If someone truly valued what they had with you, you wouldn't have to beg them to recognize it. Chasing someone who's already walking away is like watering a dead plant. You're pouring life into something that no longer has the capacity to grow. And what happens while you're chasing? You lose sight of yourself. You forget your worth. You silence your needs in order to be enough for someone who has already decided they don't want what you have to give. You trade your peace for their attention, even though attention is not the same as love. That's the danger of chasing. It convinces you that proximity is the prize, when in reality, alignment is the prize. Being next to someone physically doesn't matter if they're already gone emotionally. I've seen so many people, years later, look back and realize that the moment they stopped chasing was the moment their life started again. Because when you finally stop running after what's already gone, you give yourself permission to stand still long enough for the right thing to find you. And here's the beauty: the right love doesn't need to be caught. It arrives, it stays, it commits. Instead of asking, how can I get them back? Ask, what am I losing by running after them? Maybe it's your dignity. Maybe it's your peace. Maybe it's the chance to meet someone who is waiting to love you without hesitation. Because the truth is, every moment you spend chasing what God already removed is a moment you delay the blessing He's trying to give you. Stop chasing. Let what's gone be gone, because the love that's real for you, the one written with your name on it, will never need to be hunted down. It will find you where you are, and it will stay, not because you begged for it, but because it was always meant to. When something or someone leaves our life, it creates a void. At first, that emptiness feels unbearable, like a hollow space in your chest you don't know how to fill. You wake up in the morning and feel the absence before you even open your eyes. You go through your day noticing the silence where their voice used to be, the space at the table where they used to sit. That emptiness can feel like punishment, like life has taken more than it will ever give back. But what if that emptiness is not a punishment, but preparation? What if the very space you are grieving is the same space that is being cleared for something better to enter? Sometimes God has to remove what you thought was love in order to make space for what real love actually is. Because the truth is, you can't pour new wine into an old wineskin. You can't receive new love into a heart still crowded with what's not meant for you. Space is not a loss, it's an opening. And the reason it feels so uncomfortable is because you've been so used to being full, even if what you were full of wasn't nourishing you. Think about a cluttered room. If every corner is packed with things you don't use, there's no room for something valuable, even if it's offered to you. You'd have to clear out the old furniture, the broken things, the clutter that's been weighing down the space. Relationships work the same way. That breakup, that ending, that removal, it's the clearing. And though it stings to lose what you were used to, you're creating the breathing room you need for something far more aligned with your future. So often, we confuse familiarity with fulfillment. Just because someone has been in your life for a long time doesn't mean they're the person meant to love you the way you deserve. Just because you've grown attached doesn't mean they're capable of growing with you. Sometimes, what leaves your life isn't the best you ever had. It's just what you got used to. And if you're willing to sit with that space, instead of rushing to fill it with another distraction, you open yourself up to something deeper, healthier, more lasting. That's why space is so powerful in relationships. It forces you to face yourself. It asks you to sit in the silence and hear your own needs, your own voice, your own truth. And from that place, you become ready for a partner who doesn't just fit into the life you had, but expands the life you're meant to have. I know it's tempting to rush, to fill the void with anyone, with anything, just to escape the loneliness. But if you do that, you risk blocking the very love that was trying to reach you. Think about it. If your hands are still tightly gripping what's gone, how can you possibly catch what's coming? Letting go is painful, but it's the only way to open your palms to receive. So the next time life feels like it has taken too much from you, remember this: what's been removed is making space. Space for joy that won't fade, love that won't leave, peace that won't disappear in the middle of the night. That gap in your heart isn't the end, it's the doorway. And when the right person walks through it, you'll understand why everything else had to move out of the way first. Every ending teaches us something about who we are. When someone walks out of your life, it doesn't just leave you with silence, it leaves you with a mirror. Suddenly, you see yourself more clearly than ever before. You see the parts of you that compromised too much. You see the moments you gave away your peace just to keep someone else comfortable. You see the boundaries you never set because you were afraid of losing love. And as painful as it is, that mirror is a gift, because every removal, every heartbreak is an invitation to rediscover your own worth. Heartbreak isn't just about losing someone, it's about finding yourself again. It's easy to believe that love is about merging, about becoming so tied to another person that your identity fuses with theirs. But when that person leaves, you're forced to ask, who am I without them? And that question, though terrifying, is the very question that rebuilds your strength. Think about it. In the relationship, maybe you defined yourself by their approval. If they smiled, you felt good. If they were distant, you doubted yourself. If they stayed, you felt worthy. If they left, you felt abandoned. That kind of dependency blurs your vision. It convinces you that your value is negotiable. But when the relationship ends, and that mirror is held up to you, you begin to see your worth was never in their hands to begin with. And that realization changes everything. You start to recognize the strength you showed in trying to love deeply. You notice the courage it took to open your heart in the first place. You see the resilience you didn't even know you had, because here you are, still standing, still breathing, still capable of loving again, even after being broken. That's not weakness. That's power. Heartbreak has a strange way of highlighting the very qualities you couldn't see in yourself while you were in love. It reveals your capacity for patience, your ability to forgive, your willingness to give without expecting perfection in return. And though those qualities might have been taken for granted by the wrong person, they are the exact qualities that will make you priceless to the right one. Endings teach you boundaries. They remind you of the moments when you silenced your own needs, when you overlooked red flags, when you traded your standards for the illusion of security. Losing someone has a way of shaking you awake to the truth that you are not meant to beg for love, nor are you meant to shrink yourself to keep it. If anything, the removal was life's way of saying, you deserve better, and it's time to stop settling for less. Yes, it hurts. Yes, you wish it didn't end. But the version of you who emerges after the ending is wiser, sharper, stronger. The pain carves you, but it also shapes you into someone who no longer confuses attention for love, or silence for peace, or compromise for connection. You become someone who knows their own worth, not because someone validated it, but because loss forced you to claim it. So the next time you find yourself mourning the person who left, shift your perspective. Ask yourself, what has this ending revealed about me? What strength did I not know I had until now? What boundaries do I now realize I need to protect? Because in that reflection, you'll discover that the loss wasn't just about them leaving, it was about you arriving at a clearer, stronger, truer version of yourself. Timing is one of the most misunderstood parts of love. We often think that if two people care about each other, that should be enough. We believe that if the feelings are strong, the relationship will last. But the truth is, love is not just about who, it's also about when. Sometimes it's not that the person was completely wrong for you. Sometimes it's simply that the timing was. And when God removes someone from your life, it's often His way of protecting you from a story that was beautiful for a season, but dangerous for your future. Delay is not denial, it's alignment. Just because love didn't work out now doesn't mean it will never work out. It means it wasn't meant to happen in the way you imagined, at the time you demanded. Timing matters because people matter. People change, circumstances shift, priorities evolve. And if the timing is off, love that could have been sweet can turn sour, and what should have been a blessing can end up as a burden. Think about it. You could meet someone amazing, kind, ambitious, deeply connected to you, but if they haven't healed from their past, they can't show up for you fully. Or maybe you're in a season where you're still figuring out who you are, and instead of partnership, what you actually need is space to grow. If the timing is wrong, the relationship will constantly feel like swimming against the current. No matter how hard you try, you'll feel resistance. That resistance isn't always a sign that the person is bad. It's a sign that the timing is not aligned. And yet, here's where we often hurt ourselves. We try to force it. We push against doors that won't open. We hold on tighter when things are slipping away. We pray for God to change what He's already shown us is not meant for this moment. But what if the not yet in your life is actually protection? What if the delay is giving you the chance to grow into the person who can actually sustain the kind of love you're asking for? What if the pause is the preparation? I know how frustrating it is. We live in a world where we want everything now. Instant answers, instant validation, instant connection. So when someone leaves, our first instinct is to label it as rejection. But the wiser view is this: sometimes God is removing what you want now because He knows it will cost you too much later. The right person at the wrong time can be just as harmful as the wrong person altogether. Timing is God's traffic light. When the light is red, you stop, not because the road ahead doesn't exist, but because if you rush, you'll collide with something you can't see. When it's green, you move forward easily, without resistance. And when it's yellow, you slow down, reassess, prepare. If God is removing something, maybe the light isn't green yet. Maybe He's saving you from an accident you would have walked straight into if you had insisted on going your own way. So the next time someone leaves your life and you're tempted to see it as rejection, ask yourself, what might the timing be protecting me from? What might it be preparing me for? Because if you trust that life doesn't take without reason, you'll begin to see that what feels like an ending is often just a divine pause. And when the timing is finally right, you won't have to force it. You won't have to beg, chase, or compromise yourself. Love will flow like it was always meant to. Because this time, the who and the when will finally align. Gratitude is the part of heartbreak we rarely talk about, mostly because it doesn't show up right away. In the beginning, all you feel is loss. All you see are the empty spaces, the missing texts, the plans that will never happen. Gratitude feels impossible when your heart is still bleeding. But here's the mystery of life: one day, often when you least expect it, you look back and say the words you never thought you'd say. Thank God that didn't work out. The very thing you're crying over today may be the thing you celebrate tomorrow. What you think is breaking you now is often the very thing saving you. You just can't see it yet. When someone leaves your life, you're not only losing what they gave you, you're also being freed from what they couldn't give you. You're being released from nights you would have spent wondering if you mattered. You're being saved from compromises that would have chipped away at your identity, one piece at a time. You're being spared from futures that looked romantic in your imagination, but would have been toxic in reality. I've seen it time and again. People swear they've lost their soulmate, they beg for answers, they fight against the ending. And then years later, they look back and realize that what once felt like tragedy was actually mercy. They meet someone who loves them without conditions, who sees them fully, who doesn't make them question their value. And in that moment, the gratitude rises, because suddenly the heartbreak makes sense. The ending that once felt like cruelty is redefined as protection. Gratitude doesn't mean the pain wasn't real. It doesn't mean the love didn't matter. It means you've grown enough to see the bigger picture. You can hold the memory without holding the person. You can honor what it taught you without wishing it still existed. You can finally understand that just because something was meaningful doesn't mean it was meant to last forever. The challenge is that gratitude requires patience. It requires trusting that clarity will come later. And that's hard when all you want is closure now. But closure isn't something you're given. It's something you grow into. It's what happens when time, perspective, and healing collide. And when that day arrives, you'll feel a peace that was impossible during the storm. So instead of asking, "Why did this leave me?" start asking, "What might I one day thank this for?" That shift changes everything. It pulls you out of despair and into hope. It reminds you that every no is tied to a greater yes that's still unfolding. Gratitude may not be present in the moment, but it's waiting for you in the future. One day, you'll look back on the person you lost and feel a strange sense of relief. Not because the love wasn't real, but because you'll realize it would have cost you too much to keep it. You'll whisper, "Thank you for taking away what I thought I needed, so you could give me what I truly deserve." That gratitude is the proof that nothing was wasted. Even the heartbreak had purpose. What feels unbearable now is shaping you into someone who will one day stand in the light of love that never leaves.